All right, we are back like we never left. Episode 19 of the Small Cap Review. Making this video a little earlier in the day today, as I have some stuff going on later and just wanted to make sure that we got this in. So apologies if there's anything that runs in the afternoon that I will not be covering today. Today was a good day for day one gappers. Penny stock theme continued. And with that, let's just go ahead and run down the list. I'm going to just go through some of the top gappers today and see maybe touch on a play or two that is not a day one name. So starting with the leading gapper, MGOL, 182% gap. Let's take a look at the daily and see what we got. Now, as we see, first thing, obviously we had crazy volume today, unlike really anything this chart has seen for a long time or maybe even ever. Coming up already with 260 million shares traded at 11 o'clock my time, so 1 o'clock market time. So we have this nice consolidation here on the daily from about 40 cents to 50 cents, and that was kind of the big area in my mind that I wanted this to open over. Kind of the closer the better, so maybe we could get a pullback to this small daily gap. And when we look at the chart, what do we notice? When we're above this level, we have a couple of nice upper wicks that give us the idea that this name can run a little bit once it gets above that 50-cent base. So with it being the leading gapper, I was cautious on it and did not trade it off the open, but it did give a really nice opportunity. I say later in the morning, but it's 35 minutes after the open. So whatever you want to call that. In the pre-market, this is how I had it drawn out here. Had this pre-market level from this first wick that it made, where it came up and retested it, and then made a low or a higher low off of this level here. And then I had these two levels marked out as well, the pre-market high, and then this little high of this move that got retested into open. So what am I looking for going into open? Like I said, I wanted this name to come back and test this daily gap ideally, but once we were up here at these levels, 75 cents in the pre-market, that's quite the pullback back to 55 cents. So didn't know if we would get all the way back there, but we do get the setup that I'm talking about pretty much every day and talking about on most bullish names on this channel. Hopefully you guys are catching on by now. We get that low a day in the first 5 minutes, and we have great volume as well. Those two paired together is makes for a good stock to place your bet on. In terms of volume, let's see if we get the 4-to-1 volume in the first hour. We start with 65 million shares, which is a lot. That's a ton for the pre-market. But we do end up getting 160, so not quite. We get 3-to-1, not the 4-to-1 volume that we're looking for. So high volume in the pre-market is one thing that kind of gives it a negative tick in my box, being the leading gapper, another slight negative tick, but that does not mean you cannot trade it. So what I did for the trade on this name is I saw it bounce off of these pre-market levels and make this move up. And at this point, a pullback to VWAP was ideal for me because I knew that we had this pre-market level here as well. That had me interested, and when we got these wicks off of VWAP where it's getting absorbed, I was feeling good about a move to the upside. I ended up joining after this candle kind of made that low and started to get absorbed, and I had the risk set below the candle. So almost got stopped out on this one, but was able to stay in with that tight risk, excuse me. And with that tight risk, and we got a nice move up on increasing volume. So we had this nice push, and then this just snapped up, ended up being a halt, and halts on a penny name are a little bit harder to come by than the whole dollar name. So really, really nice fast move here. Took some profits on the resumption up here at this daily zone, and I'll show you where I got that. right here, very obvious, right up to $1. Obviously a very key psychological level there, and also had this consolidation back here as well. So a lot of action right under and right at $1. So I was happy to take profits there, coming from 60, you know, about 65 cents is what it was for me. That was an awesome, awesome move. And then we of course get more legs above it. So I was kind of just trickle selling, just taking halves off at a time. So really by the time we got up here, I did not have much left at all. Um, I learned my lesson from, what was it, the other day? I got caught in one where I did not take enough profits on the resumption when it resumed higher, and ended up getting dumped on. And so I took my lesson here and just got flat up here at this level, which was also a gap level on the daily. So was a really awesome trade for me. We had a nice, beautiful flag on top of $1. That was really nice. So if you missed this initial move, this was a decent place to get in, even though it was pretty extended off the 8. Um, Ended up still holding true and giving another push over $1. So even, like I said, even if you're late to the game, get in at a buck up to 149 of obviously 49% move there. So really nice trade. This is one that, as long as it's around $1 over VWAP, is on watch for afternoon for sure. So sick name. Hope you guys were able to take advantage. Another name that I traded this morning, did not capture enough of the move, but traded it nonetheless. MGRX, another penny name, and let's take a look at the chart. Now this one was a little congested, excuse me, around the opening price. As you see here, we're kind of in this big range, like in the mid 40s, where you have all of these wicks. So that made it a little bit trickier to play at the open, but I did like the price action that I saw right out of the bell. So kind of big picture idea was anything, if it can hold this gap that it had on the daily, break through these levels, looking for at least a move up to 60 cents or to the more obvious daily zone up here, that I got just from drawing these upper wicks, and then this consolidation back here where we get some more here as well. So that was an area of interest for me. And then up to the dollar level, which obviously is a key level on all charts. So what did I like at open? Make this bigger. So right off the bat, we had that kind of weak open candle that tested these pre-market lows, tested the bottom of this range, this 42-cent level, multi-touch pivot. And when I saw that get absorbed, I was a fan of that, but was not quite ready to get long as it still was in the middle of this range. And then when this next candle formed, it kind of came back down to this bottom of the gap, and then on increased volume began to ramp up. And so that is where I got interested and entered the trade, was on this candle, just under 48 cents. And from here, was hoping, of course, for a rip through the gap highs and then to this first level up here, which, could draw it as a pre-market zone as well. But for me, more importantly, 60-cent level on the daily, this multi-touch pivot that we just talked about. So ended up taking most of my profits up here right when it got there. And then we had, excuse me, this move a little bit higher and this dump below, and once this candle flush below 60, I just wanted to get out. It ended up playing kind of like the thought in my head where, as long as this daily gap stayed firm and held, it could get higher than it initially was in the morning. And we do get that move, 2 times. But with the average that I had, I was looking to just take profits on a quick scalp on this name. And then by the time this move started to materialize, I was focused on MGOL. And I'm typically only in one trade at a time. Sometimes I will do two, but definitely prefer just to have all my focus on one name so I can focus on the tape, focus on the price action, make sure that I am not missing anything. So how could we have captured this second move? Well, like I said, 50 cents and this gap high or the gap close level, I guess coming from the top, um, was key. You see it here 1, 2, 3 times. So whether you are trying to get an entry down here, risking below 50 cents, or if you're waiting for it to break out a little bit more, you get a really nice pullback here. If you just draw out the intraday high that we had here on this double top, as you can see, when the price breaks above it and comes back to it, we're down at the 8 EMA. We know strong stocks ride the 8. We have confluence with the intraday high of day and also this pre-market zone if that is what you're interested in and had that drawn out. So a couple key levels here that you could base a trade off of. So once you kind of get this double bottom pattern forming here, or just the pullback to the zone, maybe risking 60 cents or whatever you feel comfortable with. Maybe you see it go and join and just risk the low of the candle. But from there, we get a really nice move, and it had good range from here, from the zone up to the next obvious zone, 30%. Where do we get that zone from? That's the one we initially had talked about. This, bottom of the range here on this move, that has been retested a couple times. So that was clear on the chart for me. So that would have been a nice trade. And then we just get, another sick move up, halt up, and, when you get the halt up and it resumes lower, that is always a little bit more dicey for me. Those have a higher probability of selling off than, opening lower and then taking out the high again and, halting up again. So nice move over $1 and then back under. So similar to MGOL, if this finds its way back over VWAP, back over this 86 cents level, it could be game on for another move, maybe test the 128, 124 level that I have painted above, and who knows. Stocks have been crazy. They've been going higher than the highest lines I've had drawn on the chart recently, so who knows. I'm not going to put a limit on what it could do, but we'll be keeping it on watch. Couple more that I wanted to go over. Yeah, let's do BDRX, 76% gapper. And this was a name that really respected levels quite well. Bear with me, this is going to be one where I got to scroll for this daily. If I do it this way. Here we go. That helped a little bit. Yeah, you can tell just by looking at it, tons of lines on this chart. All right, here it is. So, bunch of lines. Thankfully, this was a name that's been gapping up a couple times recently, so already had the lines drawn out as I'd like them. Made it for some pretty easy prep work. For me, where this was opening up kind of around this 230, 226 level, um, I just like that pullback to the most obvious zone on the chart, which is right here. You have this pivot to the downside, and then you have, 1, 2, 3, 4 pivots right there, as well as this daily pivot as well, right below it. So really anything kind of at this $2 whole level was a good look, and you know, it did make that quick move down to it off the open and then a quick sell-off. So for what I typically look for, this would be, a trickier name for me to trade. I did not take any trades on it. Like I said, MGRX and MGOL were my only two today, but $2 level ended up being a true level and a good one to play off of. And you get some decent range up to an obvious gap level, 30%. Where's that gap? Right there on the chart. Clear as day, and you you could have even drawn another gap level right here. Like I said, tons of line on this chart, but for this one, had a good, strong pre-market, pretty much straight up, and then, kind of trading inner range into open, dips below that range, kind of fakes it out just below $2 for people playing that whole dollar level, before it does make that move to the upside, fills the gap, and then fails. So again, that was, yeah, that was the third leading gapper. So all three of the top three leading gappers played really well today. Like I said, this is the trickiest of the three, but still, if you're playing that $2 whole level, that was clear on the chart. You only it went not even 5 cents below that level. So if you were patient and got a good entry, you could have had some really nice tight risk reward on that name. So um, I think AULT, I'll talk about why I was not interested in this one, but I won't spend a ton of time on it. All right, forget it. We're not even gonna pull the daily. It's the 4 hour gonna. Okay. Um, so for this name, it had just a ton of pivots right here that were really clear on the daily chart. Sorry for using the 4 hour. I just do not want to make you guys sit there and watch me scroll on the daily. But it had a bunch of clear pivots here on the chart. And I liked how it was opening on this daily level here that I had drawn out. But I just knew it didn't have a ton of range for what I typically like. You know, it had up to, I just used this middle zone when I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, okay, it's about 15% range, and I, foresee it having a difficult time here. It tried in the pre-market, a bunch of wicks up here at this price. So, I moved from the zone to the pre-market highs was, kind of what I measured out, and 15% just wasn't enough for me to get super interested with all these levels above. So ended up being a good trader. Nothing wrong with taking a 15% trade, but again, you'd have to play that right off of open. Sell perfectly just does not give you a whole lot of room to be wrong or to not play it correctly. So that was a decent name, but one that just did not have the characteristics that I am typically looking for. I think the last one I want to talk about today, oh, MA was another decent gapper too. We'll just do FLJ. So this name should sound familiar. If you look at the chart, just 2 days ago, we had a really nice move on it. This one should be fine to go to the daily on. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Sorry, folks. Just want to make sure that we get the full daily context on this one. There it is. All right. So like I said, 2 days ago, had a really nice move. Ended up giving quite a bit of it back and then selling off more yesterday down to the 8 EMA on the daily. So this is a name that was, I still had it tagging along on my daily watch list, but would not have been interested in trading it. But we do get some nice moves. Down here we see that this 85 to, about 75-cent level was pretty clear on day one. It does a little below and above, flags off of it. So when it came back to this level yesterday and held it decently there, you can tell that it's a level of interest, and it ends up being the best level for you to play off of today. So maybe it hits your scanners like it hit mine as it made this move, went above, and then this, really low volume consolidation right on it. This move above VWAP, a tap of it, and then a nice move to the upside. So a little bit more of a reactionary trade versus one that you would be planning going into the day. But if you just look left at the prior 2 days, you would be able to see that this was a clear area of interest. And once we get this increasing volume, it's kind of an anything can happen situation. You do get a halt up into this level and then up into these pre-market levels here. And those are pre-markets from the opening day. And again, you have some nice consolidation there as well. So honestly, if you are a more short bias trader, this made for a good trade to the short side too, a nice backside pop that gave pretty good range to the downside as well. 30%, in about 30 minutes, even a little bit less than that. So good work there for the shorts, and of course fed the longs on it as well. So good to, like I said, it was on my watch list still. The way I don't think I've talked about this, and this is kind of getting buried late in this video, but the way I do my watch list are I have a list for every day of the week, and just day by day I will go through and for to use tomorrow as example, first thing I do when I make my watch list for tomorrow will be go through these names, look at the charts, see if they're still relevant, keep them on if they are, delete them off if they're not, and then go to the past few days, look at all those tickers, see which ones I would like to carry over and which ones I will leave to look at again, on that weekday of next week. So worth to keep these names, keep your levels on the charts, just, keep them in your mind, especially when they do show that they have good range like FLJ did, on day one. He had some really sick moves on it, all the way to 275 from its humble beginnings under $1 down at 75 cents. So good to keep it on radar, and this will stay on the radar and maybe even give us some more upside. So anyway, that'll about do it. I'll call it at the usual 20 minutes. If you guys have any questions, any tickers you want to talk about, any themes, whatever it may be, leave a comment, let me know. I will for sure get back to you. Hope you guys traded well today, and I will see you back here tomorrow for episode 20. Later, folks.